We're gonna do math today! This treatise on deck building was partly inspired by MBT's video about Ash Blossom, how many Yu-Gi-Oh players are parroting assumed theories about the game without actually verifying them first. Not to imply that Yu-Gi-Oh players are dumb, this can happen in scientific disciplines too. First, some shocking advice. Ratios don't matter. In fact, optimal ratios can be bad. Let's say the card we want to draw is Bastion, because he's really good at math. It is standard Yu-Gi-Oh logic to run the maximum number of copies of each card to maximize your odds of drawing it. However, modern card design punishes us for doing this, as nearly every card is limited to one use per turn. Drawing duplicate cards will typically hurt you. Adding duplicates will increase your odds of seeing that card by more than the chance of losing a draw to redundant copies. So you gain a big advantage, right? But this simple math wrongly assumes that the good outcome and bad outcome are equally consequential. 17.5% chance to gain a card, only 3.5% chance to lose a card? No, that's not the equation. You're increasing your chance of drawing this specific card. If you don't get this card, you're still getting another one. In game theory, we can explore this with a payoff matrix. Let's say you win this gamble 3 out of 4 times for a +1 payoff, but that fourth outcome is -5. You are more likely to win, but when you lose, you'll lose big. So your average expected payoff overall is a -2. Unless the card in question is so vital that you wouldn't mind paying an extra copy to use it, you will probably cope just fine drawing something else. It's not like any deck is facing a shortage of options these days. If it's in your deck, it's probably good. So more realistically, the payoff of drawing that specific card is probably less than +1. Meanwhile, that 3.5% fail rate you introduced is cumulative for every card in your deck that you run in multiples. A deck with everything maximized will open with duplicates in about half of its hands, and you might even open with 2 pairs of duplicates. The risk worsens when you're going second, drawing a 6th card. Compared to going first, your chance of drawing 1 copy increases by 13%, but the chance of a duplicate has grown by over 50%. If you're going second, maybe side out some duplicates? Keep in mind that these probabilities don't account for things like additional draws, searches, and ways to mitigate dead draws, such as discard costs. It is impossible to calculate every deck's payoff matrix, every player's payoff matrix. There are more cards, strategies, and board states in this game than there are bricks in a Crystal Beast deck. So don't take my lecture here as gospel, these are suggestions, not laws. A lot of things are really just suggestions. Except laws. You should follow laws. I always say there are so many ways to play this game. Don't think your deck has to look a specific way, or that someone else's deck is bad because it looks different from yours. Sometimes I don't even know what's in my deck, and it's usually fine. In fact, the ideal Yu-Gi-Oh deck would be all singleton. No chance of drawing a duplicate. There just aren't that many strategies that have that many searchers all capable of plays no matter which combination is drawn, and without any cards in particular being twice as good as all the other ones. You can observe this principle in the ever-decreasing relevance of the limited list. Even when a key card gets limited, there are so many ways to search it out, and only 1 copy is needed anyway. We saw the apex of this in Master Duel's Limit 1 event, in which Rescue Ace Diabellstar was running at more or less full power, despite having no duplicates in the entire deck. Let's put this into practice. MBT pointed out that Ash Blossom tends to be useful only if you draw it alongside more disruption, because most decks can play through a lone disruptor. I would like to add to his contribution. Let's say you have 3 open slots in your deck list. You didn't watch MBT's video, so you fill them all with Ash Blossoms. And you draw them. You have now lost 2 draws to duplicates you cannot use, and the other 2 cards in your opening hand are Slifer Slackers. If there is not a huge disparity in usefulness between Ash Blossom and, let's say, Ghost Ogre and Ghost Bell, why not use one of each? That way, you're guaranteed to be able to use every ghost you draw. This may look less consistent because your deck list doesn't have that pretty 3x on it, but it is actually more consistent because you now have fewer combinations of draws which will brick each other. So why does everybody say to run 3? Well, in life in general, the best way to dispel a false maxim is to find its source. Scientific advancement in the Middle Ages was greatly impeded by an over-reliance on ancient sources such as Pliny the Elder, a Roman scholar who made the first encyclopedia. These early intellectuals were considered the very essence of knowledge, not to be questioned, and so newer, more accurate perspectives were silenced. Even though Pliny the Elder was not a scientist, he was mostly just compiling other people's works without verifying them. Even Even myths were presented as facts, some of them enduring until recent decades. Natural history was cited so many times, people just assumed it had to be true. Everyone's saying it, folks, believe me. Blah. Connecting this to more important subjects, such as Yu-Gi-Oh!, the rule of maxing out copies comes from an era when you had to draw a card to use it? These days, we hardly have a draw phase, we just search for everything. Search effects are crucial, not just because they get you to the card you need, but also because you get to pick the card you need. They are versatile. Duels today often come down to how efficiently you can access the card which will break through the opponent's setup. In a more varied deck, including one that goes over 40 cards, you'll have more options to search for. That means more outs to more situations. Plus, having more search targets lowers the odds of bricking due to having drawn the only cards worth searching for. This leads into another trope of modern Yu-Gi-Oh! Design, what has been called the Garnet, a card which is necessary for other cards to function, but which becomes useless if it is drawn. The belief that 40-card decks are the most consistent is another artifact of the age of dial-up, when you'd want to draw every card. But now, decks contain cards you don't want to draw. You don't want to hit those Garnets, and you don't want to hit those limited-use duplicates. When these get involved, increasing the size of your deck can increase its consistency, because now you have a lower chance of hitting those bad draws, as long as the cards you're adding still synergize and search. Stop taking your deck building advice from Pliny the Elder. He only plays GOAT format, and he bought out all the Electromites on TCG Player 2 years ago because someone at his local said it was getting unbanned. Play your cards at whatever ratio you like. In terms of consistency, it's probably not going to make a huge difference. Stop worrying, stop overthinking, stop thinking, stop reading. We're Yu-Gi-Oh! Players, okay? Just attack. That golden castle's probably nothing. I've got more to say, so next month's Yu-Gi-Oh! Video will be part 2 about net decking and celebrity worship. The story of a deck which was assumed to be solved, and the deck list which killed it. I have been churning out way too much content this month. Not every video needs to be a comprehensive 20-minute guide. You're tired. You should sleep. But I just came up with another FTK combo deck. Shh, sleep.